Hello everybody, so we are back and it's Masterclass time, and I'm super excited because we've taken a bit of a break and due to the COVID situation, but we are back. We've got Karen Tennyson tuning in live from her place and space, and we also have Tendai, our resident musician, who's going to start off our jingle. So we are excited and we are truly blessed that you are once again joining us for the Masterclasses here at Curro Waterfall. So welcome Tendai, you can take it away. I hope everybody's going to enjoy this jingle of our Masterclass.
Thank you, Dr. Bach. Here we go. Teaching done right, parenting done right, together we can do more to build our children's lives. That is our common goal. Teaching done right, parenting done right, together we can do more to build our children's lives. That is our common goal. Don't leave it to chance. Come to the master class to build our children's lives. That is our common goal. Don't leave it to chance. Come to the master class to build our children's lives. That is our common goal.
That was pretty awesome. Thank you, Tendai. I hope you guys enjoyed that. So we are blessed. We are excited to have Karen Tennyson back again with us on set. Karen was on set with us on the Masterclass last year, September, and she spoke about identity, diversity, and she also spoke about her book, I've Got Brown Skin and Curly Hair, and the book is finally out. So we are excited to partner with her because it's very insightful, it's very intriguing, but it's also very exciting because it speaks about family values, certain goals that families can set, and there's quite a depth to this book and it's very intriguing, as I mentioned earlier. So welcome on set with us, Karen, from your home. I hope that you are excited as we are on this beautiful book.
Hi, Dr. Bach. Thank you so much for inviting me back on set. I'm very excited to be here. So thank you for the opportunity to share this work with everyone. I appreciate it.
So Karen, we've read the book, we shared it with our teachers here in our school community, and it's so insightful because obviously the stories that comes from this book, it's almost like there's different segments of this book that you can unpack. And I want to start by asking you, just explain a little bit about the experience, the fact that the book is out now, you've completed this book, and it's so phenomenal, and I think it's very relevant in these times as well. So if you just can enlighten us a little bit about your experiences completing the book.
Dr. Bach, I tell almost everyone that asks the question that it was such a long journey. It took a long time to write because I grappled with a lot of the material. You know, I really looked at it, I researched it, I thought about it, and I wrestled with some of the ideas because it deals with some very hard topics, and having to sort of downscale that and simmer it down so that a child can understand it. That was not always easy, but after having gone through that process, right, the next process was to go into publication, and that in itself is its own set of, it has its own set of challenges. Of course, I sent it over to Jacana Media in their pitch to publication, and their pitch to publication, they accepted it. So they said, great, you can come and pitch it. Now that was a great win for me. It was not publication yet, but to go and pitch your work to a publisher and have them, poke holes in it, ask questions about it, that was amazing. And because oftentimes, as any writer would tell you, when they write a story, what they do is they send it into this black hole. Right. They sort of submit it and they get a generic letter back saying, sorry, this is not what we're looking for. So you don't get someone who's really a professional critique your work. And so I was very excited to do the pitch. And I was thrilled when they said that they would publish it. And of course, that's when I got put in touch with Jacana Media's children's book publisher, Carol Broomhall. And then we started our hunt for an illustrator. That again was another challenge. So it's been hurdle after hurdle. Eventually we found the esteemed artist Charles Gibbons, and he worked very hard. Everything in the book is in oils, done by hand, and it was amazing. So that journey was in itself a very exciting journey. It was really a learning curve for me. I learned so much through the process about the world of publication. And then to see it on the shelves this year has been something else. Wow. It's been amazing. And parts of it is still surreal to walk past an exclusive books and see your book in the shop. So I just feel really blessed. It was a very emotional time for me because it had taken so long.
Yeah. But I want to congratulate you. It's almost like when I listen to you, it's almost like this success against all odds. I think Women's Month is coming up. It just shows again that power, that determination. You are a successful businesswoman. You're now a children's author. And I can only say congratulations, because while she was speaking, I actually got goosebumps because I was actually so inspired by the fact that you never gave up, you went for it. Explain to me, Karen, what does this mean to your family, your girls, seeing this book? I mean, I know that you speak about your girls through the book. So what was that experience for them and for you collectively as a family?
Thank you very much, Dr. Bach, for your kind words. It was difficult going through the process, but now having brought this process home and showing them that this is the end product. I have a book that's been published. I think for the older ones, my 7-year-old, she's turning 8, and my 10-year-old, I mean, for them, they understand the challenges around it, and they understand the challenges around writing, and I think for them to see their mum in print, they get it. They understand the immensity of it. My daughter screamed when she walked into Exclusive Books and she saw it on the shelf because she wasn't expecting it. And I just think that they love the idea that I'm published. They often say, "Oh, Mummy's famous," because that's what kids kind of understand from being on TV or being, well, not necessarily on TV, but being on screen and being interviewed. But for me, I'm really hoping that the takeaway for them will be that as women, and to your point, to Women's Month, that as little women growing up, that they really can achieve anything, and that they've got to have the perseverance to do it. And they've got to have the staying power, because oftentimes that's what it takes to finish any race. So for me, I'm thrilled that they think that their mum is famous or that their mum's in print. But for me, the more important lesson is that as girls, as little women growing up, that they can know that you can achieve almost anything that you set your mind and heart to. It takes perseverance. It takes the staying power. It takes all of that grit to get it done, and that you can get it done. So I'm hoping that that's going to be the final takeaway as they grow up through the years and they see that their mum did this, that I'm a good role model to them. I think that's really what I'm hoping to be to my kids through this book.
That's really powerful. And Karen, I want to talk to you about, because I picked up like a common thread, and I think it was even one of the questions that came through from the audience, is that it constantly goes back to family, but we are family, and that's so powerful. And I think that common thread sends a strong message out there, and I think this is what the book, obviously what the book is based on. So if you can just share a little bit about what does family mean to you? How do you view families in this modern society? I mean, we're preparing for the 4th Industrial Revolution. What does family mean to you as an author?
The family for my husband and I is really the center of everything. It's our daughters and our unit is the reason why we do everything. It's the reason why we work hard. It's the reason why we get up every day. And so family, of course, is central to everything. But I think for me, what's important to me, and growing up in the society that we're growing up in, especially in South Africa, is that we're growing up in a very diverse society. And by that I mean there are so many influences everywhere. There's influences on TV, there are influences in music, there's influences in social media, there are influences at school, and so you don't have these sort of homogenous societies anymore where you've got sort of one set of people living in one area. You've got a mix of people everywhere. And for me, it's very important that our daughters get a sense of grounding, that they're anchored in our family, and that they know that their difference, whether it be that they're different to their friends, whether it be that they're different to their siblings in the way that they look, in the way that they approach life, in the way that they learn, whatever those differences may be, that those differences are okay, and that they're accepted for who they are, and that the fact that they are different and unique is something that should be celebrated, and something that should be that they should be excited about, and not something that they should sort of shy away from or be embarrassed about, or in any way feel that they're less than anyone else. And so for me, family allows them to do that, because even in our families we may look different, do things differently, have different strengths and weaknesses, and family is a microcosm of what is happening in society, in school, and in the world at large.
Wow, that's very powerful. I like the fact that you speak about the diversity of a family. I think it addresses quite a lot of not concerns, but the anxiety of people wanting to be accepted in society, but also in a family. And I think it once again just confirms that it doesn't matter who you are, or like you said, where you come from, but we are different, we are diverse, and it's okay. So that I think that's quite a strong and a powerful message that's coming through there, Karen.
Thank you.
Karen, I'm just amazed. I'm so excited, because as we go along and unpacking the pillars and the segments of this book, I'm just getting so much more excited, because I think this is so appealing to the modern family, to potential people that will go out to exclusive books now and lift this from the shelves. Because what I find is, like, apart from the common thread of family, I also think there is stories to tell. It taps into the traditions, the history. And I know that you, for example, are a very good cook yourself. Can you just explain to me a little bit about why did you go this angle? Why did you pull on the traditions? Why did you pull on these family histories through storytelling? Because it's something that I can pick up, when I look at the book and how you've written the book. So can you just explain a little bit about that?
So, Dr. Bok, I've always been fascinated with history and with the stories of where we come from. And, when my third daughter was born, she looked very different from the rest of her siblings. She was very fair-skinned, and that drew a lot of attention. And I felt that it was incumbent upon me as a parent to actually build a narrative around why that was so. Why did she look that way? Why was she fair-skinned and her sisters are darker-skinned? Or why does she have curly hair and another sister has straight hair? What was the reasoning behind that? And I knew that if I didn't own that narrative, then the whole world at large would imprint its own ideas. And oftentimes, my own experience was negative ideas on her. And so I didn't want her to be shaped, and her sense of identity to be shaped by what other people were saying about her. And so it was my job to tell her who she was. And I did that by looking at, the real reason. Why does she look the way she looks? It can only be because of where she comes from. It can only be because of her ancestry. It can only be because I think of the reason why all of us look the way we look. It's because we all come from somewhere. And so I started to dig a little bit, and of course knew a little bit about my own family history and my husband's family history, because that's what you do. You get to learn about one another and yourself as you grow up. And I started to tell those stories through the book. But I've not just told them through the book, because storytelling is not something that needs to be contained in a book. Storytelling is really an organic process that should happen in the home. and can happen in the home, especially when you're telling a personal story, when you're telling your child her personal history. And so the story of our ancestry is really the story of the identity of this family and where we come from, and why, for little people, it's important why you look the way you look. And so I started to navigate those, and I use an example of my great-grandmother who came from St. Helena. She was young, she was very young when she came, she was in her late teens, and she sailed across the ocean from St. Helena, which is an island off the coast of Africa. Wow. She came to the Cape and eventually made her way to Johannesburg, and she had 10 kids. Wow. And got married, had these 10 children, and she never returned to the island. And I often wonder, you know, because I've got some of the letters between herself and her sisters or siblings or family.
Oh, you actually do have those letters?
I do. I have those letters. And so I could see some of who she was, but it doesn't tell the fullness of who this woman was. She must have been a woman of great strength, a woman of great perseverance. To have done that, to have raised 10 children without the nearness of her siblings, her family. And so those are stories that I tell when I'm cooking, when I'm baking with my kids. Those are stories that happen during the mundane activities of every day. Sure. And you can tell those stories, and it makes for a richer, I think, a richer experience for your kids. And it makes understanding who they are and their identity part of their normal everyday lives.
That's actually so powerful, because so you're telling me you're making fat cake and mince and you're chatting to your kids about it, and I think it's such a good way to tell these family traditional stories.
No, it definitely is. And even then, you know, to tell a story, and I've used the example previously, I come from a family of bakers and cooks, and to make something that you've grown up with, and that's something almost everyone experiences, you know, make something you've grown up with and tell the story around that to your children allows them to almost taste a piece of your own history and a piece of your own childhood. And that's a very powerful way of storytelling.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. And once again, Karen, that's what I'm saying. This book is just buzzing so many different angles, because there you can actually go into the mundane activities and you telling a story. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to sit in a conventional library or a certain space and place. We can actually do it anywhere, to tell a story, to share the history, to share the traditions, and also to speak to your kids about family and family values. So I think that's quite a powerful tool to have.
Yes, no, it certainly is. And it's something that we delve into quite often in our home, because our daughters, I have 4 of them, they all look quite different from one another. Of course, there are similarities, there are sisters, but it's just such a beautiful way to explain a very scientific process. It's your genetics that make you look the way you look. It's what's come down your bloodline that makes you look the way you look. And in our background, you know, we're a very mixed group of people over the years and over the history. And not all of the book tells my personal history, but I think I've added so many different flavors from all over South Africa, because that's found in so many South African families. And so the story is really not a story that just belongs to a colored family, for instance, but it's a story that belongs to almost all South African families, because it's a quintessential South African story. You know, when we look back in South African history, we see that there were so many aspects in our history that brought people from different nations, from different parts of Africa, from all over the world to South Africa, and they mixed here. They formed societies here and formed families here, and those families are now represented by the people around us and by us ourselves.
Wow, that's powerful. Karen, I want you to just read a little bit for me about the book. I think I'm so excited, and I think the audience can't wait to obviously hear it in the author's voice, the person that wrote the book. So can you please just read a couple of lines for us?
Okay. My great-great-grandfather from Croatia, he came, looking for gold, fortune and fame. I'm told he wore a large hat atop a mass of curls. This daughter's hair's the same, with the same kind of twirls. But anyhow, it matters not what curly, twirly or straight hair you've got. Don't you see, you don't need to look the same to be family.
Oh wow, thank you, Karen. I think there again, it just resembles, it oozes out the South African rainbow nation. I think there's once again I pick up trends of there is a mix. However, we are family. It doesn't matter. We're so diverse. What does it mean to you when you even read those lines to us, Karen?
So, I'm so glad that you've touched on the South African aspect. I think it's another layer in the book, Dr. Bach, that you cannot ignore your own identity and your own family history without looking at it against the backdrop of the South African context. Right. And the South African context, and I guess not just South Africa, but any context, any family, anywhere in the world, if they were to pick up this book, you have to identify who you are against the history of the nation that you're coming from. And in this particular case, you can look at explore South African history and what has happened throughout South African history and how it has come to rest in this place called your nuclear family. And so it's so interesting, because I know that what's happened with my own kids is it's made them question a lot of South African history, and it's opened up conversations about South African history. We've spoken very briefly about the Khoikhoi, the Griquas, very briefly about this man who came from Italy, from Croatia, who came in and came looking for gold during the gold rush. And those are all aspects of South African history that we don't necessarily always learn about in school, but it can open up conversation at home and make you interested, make our kids interested in history as a whole. And history, of course, teaches us so much.
Yes. And I think even for me, in the education space as an educationalist, I also think what's really thought-provoking for me is that this book can actually speak about history, speak about our South African heritage and history as well. And it can be done in a very subtle way, because through the reading lesson or through a life orientation lesson, even for that matter, this book can actually be quite a nice aid in the classroom. And it's not your full-blown, discussion about history or diversity, but I think it can be done in a very nice way. So I actually have goosebumps, because education is my passion, and I think this can just be another tool that can be used, obviously, to tell the fantastic stories, to speak about our diverse rainbow nation. I think it's very powerful.
I'm so glad to hear that from a person who's teaching, from a teacher, from an educationalist, to hear that feedback, because really that is one of the things that I wanted to achieve with the book, and that is to achieve conversation in family about diversity, but to give it a soft landing for little people. Right. Because we come from a history in this country that's very hard and very painful for a lot of people, but that's too difficult for little children to absorb. And so I think that it allows us to have conversations about diversity, even conversations about South Africa's history in a very soft way, and allows a soft landing, but also lays a foundation that they can grow up with, having the right understanding about why everyone looks different. It's not based on some arbitrary reason that causes people to discriminate, for example, but it's based on factual reasons. And it's a soft landing told in a soft way for kids to absorb, but it also builds a foundation for harder conversations to take place later.
Right. No, that's fantastic. Karen, I also pick up, another under threat, and it's that kind of a sense of belonging, which is obviously very appealing for the modern family as well. I'm sure you've spoken to so many people already about the book, and people have given you feedback, but I just pick up the sense of belonging, and I think it's so good for our kids out there to know, and even for adults, that they belong. They belong to something. And I'm sure even if you're single or you're an individual operating by yourself, it's nice to know that you do have a family in your workplace. You've got a family wherever you go, as part of a group of friends. So I pick up the sense of belonging. And did you ever get feedback about that? Is it an under threat that's in this book?
Dr. Bach, I'm so pleased that you asked that question. It certainly is. It's also one of the major themes running through the book, because there's a repetitive, or it repeats itself throughout the book, that you don't need to look the same to be family, no matter what your hair is, whether it's curly or straight haired, no matter what the color of your eyes are, no matter what the complexion of your skin is. You don't need to look the same to be family. And it does lend itself very strongly to the sense that you do belong. We belong to one another, even if we look different. And so it certainly has resonated. I've gotten very good feedback. I've spoken to more than one parent, for instance, who've adopted kids. And they say that the kids that have read this book, that have been adopted, it has resonated so much with them because they don't look like their mum and their dad. But that common thread coming through all the time, that you don't need to look the same to be family, is something that has really touched them, and it has sparked the right conversation about race, about diversity, about looking different to one another, and about the fact that we still belong to one another, no matter how we look. And I think that's very, very important in families. It gives children a real sense of security, and it also strengthens their idea of their identity, because it makes them feel very confident inside of themselves to say, I look this way, it's okay, I belong. And if I may, Dr. Bach, if I may just read the last page of the book, because
I think, please do.
I think that closes it. It says, they look at my curly hair and smile, and then they go quiet for a while. I look up bravely and say, this is why we all look this way. But anyhow, it matters not what kind of look I've got. Don't you see? I'm unique, free to be me. We all look different, but we're one family.
Wow, that's so powerful. And I think actually, for people that wondered, or it's so actually so motivational, that this is just once again a reminder that you're part of a group, you belong somewhere. Everybody belongs somewhere, everybody comes from somewhere. So I think it's very powerful, it's very inspirational. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much.
So obviously when I go and I look into my research as well, and we particularly focus about families and the modern family and family ties and family history, and Karen's book, obviously, I've got brown skin and curly hair. That just brings about what we want to discuss and what the research suggests, because the research still says that people want a sense of family, they want a sense of belonging, they want to feel that they belong. It's iconic, it's something that will never go away, it's timeless, because family actually institutes that you belong somewhere, you belong to a group, you belong to something very specific. And I think that's quite powerful. And I think, Karen, you've touched on that earlier as well, that the book, there is an underthread that you belong somewhere. And I think it actually ties in with the research that I've looked at. But also families can institute that you are important. It means that you are worthy of something, you're worthy to belong to this group of people, you've got a voice, you can contribute to this family, and actually you can contribute to this common goal. And I think what was so profound when you discussed it, Karen, about your girls, is that everybody looks the same, but everybody yet contribute that uniqueness to the family. One is very humorous, one is sometimes very grumpy, one eats a specific type of food. But everybody contributes to this wow family, to the Tienenses, to the Box, or whatever family is out there. And I think what's really nice about the book and the fact that we're discussing families and family values is that it can really set a path also for girls, for example, for young girls out there, that it really doesn't matter as long as they're confident with who they are, they know where they belong. The value of family stands out there once again. And the last point that I'm going to make is that they've got a role to play as well, because on the flip side, everybody in a family, they've got a role to play. Whether it is, not cutting the grass, for example, with the duties and things like that, but it is somebody that can balance, conversation. Sometimes we want to make hasty decisions, but then our partner or a child would bring a sense of calm, within the family group. So everybody's got a role to play. And I think it's very powerful and it's very profound. And I think the book ties in nicely with our topic. And I actually want to call the month of July Family Month, because I think it is all about families, especially during the time of COVID-19, it's difficult. Some families are maybe struggling, there's anxiety in the household. And I think in this time it's quite profound, because I think a discussion like this can ground families again. It can bring them back to a sense of that they belong, that things will be okay. And as you said earlier, like, it matters not because we are one family. So even a situation like COVID, it matters not because things will be okay. We are family, we are a unit, we stand together and we can overcome. So I think that's quite profound and powerful as well. So Karen, we're almost coming to an end, and this has been such an insightful discussion. It's just exciting. I've got goosebumps all over my body. I think it's just so fresh, it's so new. I think it's so relevant as well. And it taps into such a variety of aspects like history, traditions, cooking, so many different things, you know, sense of belonging. So where do you find this book, Karen? Where do we get this book?
So you can buy this book at Exclusive Books. You can also buy it at CNA. It's been published in 4 languages, in English, Afrikaans, isiXhosa and isiZulu.
Wow.
And it's been part of the homebrew promotion for Exclusive Books that's running at the moment. So it is one of the homebrew titles, and you can find it in Exclusive Books. So yeah.
Oh wow, I think, you know, it's also such, it can be a nice gift. It can be something that can be used for schools. Parents can use it in their homes. I think the, you know, the Christmas time is also coming up where people have to look for gifts. So I think it will just be the perfect gift as well. Karen, I just want to ask you about reading, because I'm in the education space. You've obviously dreamed, this dream became a reality. You are an author now of a children's book. Do you have any message for our little ones or our educators out there about the importance of reading, and why reading would always be timeless?
So for me, you know, books are such an integral part of my life, and I try to make it that for my kids as well. And that's because books can take you on so many journeys. It can make you see life so differently from the way you currently see it. And it can bring imagination to children, increase their vocabulary. So I want to say to little people, read, because it's so entertaining. It's going to take you on so many journeys. And that's why I want little people to read. Why I think little people should read this book, or families should read this book with their little children, is because I think it builds a strong sense of questions and conversations in the family that bring a strong sense of self-acceptance and a strong sense of self in your little one. That I look this way, this is who I am, and I'm accepted, I'm loved in my family. And so when I go out there into the world, it's also okay. I'm accepted in my family, and so I'm strong and confident in myself, so I can face the big wide world out there.
Wow, that's so powerful. Karen, we've run out of time, but I just want to say a huge thank you. I really appreciated your time. And what was so enlightening and just really exciting is the fact that, you know, we can speak to families out there about identity, about acceptance. And I'm just really, really blessed to have you as one of my guests once again on the Masterclass set. I wish you all the best with your book. I'm encouraging people to go and get this book, go out there and get the book, and let's make the world a better place, because through this story, I've got brown skin and curly hair. I think there's so many stories to tell for you to ignite as a parent, as an educator out there, and even as a young girl or a young gentleman. I mean, it is powerful for you to go and pick up this book and read and be intrigued and go and dig deep and find yourself. I think what's also powerful about the book is that sense of belonging, and everybody belongs somewhere. And it just shows again how diverse the book can be, because in that context, this book will also mean something to the community and the population out there. Karen, I want to thank you once again, but before we go, I believe that you've got something exciting to share with us.
Thank you, Dr. Bok. Thank you for having me, first of all. It's been such a pleasure to have to come onto the Masterclass again, and it's also such a pleasure, and I'm so thankful and grateful just for the opportunity to share on this platform. So thank you very, very much for promoting the book. Part of my thanks for promoting the book, as well as part of this crazy time of COVID that we all find ourselves in with the COVID-19, 20 Rand of the sale of this book at Curro Waterfall will be going to the Baskets of Light Fund, and I would extend that to any institution, educational institution, if others want to come on board and buy the book, that I donate 20 Rand to a charity of that organization's choice. I know in Curro Waterfall, Baskets of Light is to alleviate the plight of so many staff members and other people in the community, the plight that they face during COVID-19. And so I'd like to assist any school, any educational institution in the same way. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. I think that's so powerful. So I want to encourage even our community and extend it to the community of Johannesburg, the community in South Africa. Please pick up the book, because once again, this can extend and make a difference in somebody else's life. So it's almost like paying it forward. So I want to thank you for that, Karen. I think it's very generous of you. And always remember that it doesn't cost us anything to be kind. I mean, Karen was just a brilliant example now. And yeah, I'm wishing you all the best, everybody, and we'll chat soon.